Hey everyone, so today I'm going to be teaching my friend Nobel how to do LeetCode, and he's a complete beginner to LeetCode. Do you even know what LeetCode is?
Nah, isn't this like something that interviewers do to test you? That's
Yeah.
what I heard.
So pretty much what you do LeetCode,
Yeah.
LeetCode is a simple platform that allows you to do practice interview questions. So this is a question that they could ask you in an interview, and you need to write the code, and you could run the code and submit the code, and it will test that the code actually does what's expected.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, actually, just give a quick background on yourself.
So yeah, my name's Nobel. I'm 19 years old. I'm taking a course called Information Technology Services, and I've only done a basic programming course, so I don't know much. But yeah, James is gonna help me learn, be better.
Sick. Let's get it. So I'm gonna teach him. He's a complete beginner. I'm gonna teach him how to lead code. So yeah, let's just talk. Let's quickly let me explain to you what the interview process is like at these companies. So pretend I want to get into Facebook, for example.
Yeah.
So first obviously submit your resume, but once you submit your resume, the step one is a phone screen.
Phone screen.
So basically, you just hop on a Google Meets or a Zoom, similar to what I do in my channel,
Yeah.
and they're just gonna ask you a lead code question. They're just gonna paste it into a text editor. They're gonna paste this in. They're like, given a valid IP address, return a defanged version of the IP address, and they explain what a defanged IP address is.
Yeah.
And like choose whatever language you want to use, and then write the code. And we want to make sure the code runs or something, or we want you to walk through the code and make sure that the code does, like if I input this, I get that output. Like it does, it works correctly. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
You have any questions on that?
No. No.
Cool. So yeah, you pretty much, if you pass the phone screen, you move on to like an on-site stage. An on-site stage is usually 3 to 5 more interviews.
Damn.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So you have one where they just test you on the code, and then you have 3 to 5 interviews. So the different steps is probably 2 coding. That's minimum. And the coding ones are exactly the same as phone screen one. They'll hop you into a code editor, and you have to solve a lead code question. And usually you have to solve like 2 lead code questions in the span of an hour.
Yeah.
But you'll have 2 coding interviews. Then they finally do behavioral.
How long does a LeetCode question normally take you? Or take a regular person?
Usually it should take you less than 20 minutes.
Okay.
Obviously, when you're still training, it's going to take you longer. But what you want to do is use the timer functionality here to get it to time yourself to get. It's just like training basketball.
Yeah.
You just have to keep training until you get slower, and you have to take on harder and harder questions. Because if you can do a hard question in 20 minutes, you get this easy one. You'll do it in like 2 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nice.
So behavioral interview. Then there's also a system design interview, and this is other stuff that I'm coding my chat or I like handle in my channel. But what we're focusing on is the coding part, because as a software engineer, these are the most important things, or what they weigh you on. If you do bad on these, you will never get the job.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit about the process. So I'm gonna use this website where you can see questions, and they're rated. 1084 is the lowest rated question,
Okay.
but it goes all the way up into like some hard questions. Look at this, like hard level.
My God.
So kids can do these questions, but
Yeah.
this is like 3700. I can't do this question, but
Okay.
kids on my channel can do it.
Nah, that's crazy. They're talented.
Yeah, I mean, actually, no. You just work hard towards it.
Work hard, yeah.
Have you played chess before, or have you heard of the chess like elo system?
Nah.
So basically, what they do in chess, and it's similar to video games, where pretend we're playing Fortnite, right? And we're just if we suck, we play with other people who suck.
Yeah.
But when we start getting better, they place us against people who are a bit better.
Like
Yeah, it's like
placement.
matchmaking, right?
Yeah, matchmaking.
So chess players, they kind of play people who are the same elo as them, which is
Yeah.
like the same
Level.
level. And then when they get better than them, you don't want to be like stomping on them all day, so they move you up.
Yeah.
But like basically, you should start with low elo lead code questions, so it's at your level where it's not too hard,
Yeah.
but you still have fun because you're able to solve it. and then you slowly progress
Okay.
to get to like the highest levels. So
Yeah.
let's just work through. We'll work through a couple. We'll try to keep this video under 20 minutes because he's a complete beginner. But I just want to introduce him to the concept of solving algorithms. So let's look at the easiest question on LeetCode. So let's see. Let me move us here. So this is a text. Do you not use Python or no?
Not really. I took this course a while ago.
But they made you learn Python?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Kinda,
they
like,
made you okay.
basic. No,
Alright.
don't have expectations.
All right. So let's get your thoughts here. So the question is called defanging an IP address. So we're given a IP address. You know IP address. You did networking.
Networking's pain.
Do you know what a defanged IP address is? Is that a thing?
Nah, I never heard of it.
Okay, so basically, all we need to do is take the IP address.
Yeah.
And replace every period with a period with brackets around it.
Okay.
So that's what this question is telling us to do. So do you have any ideas of how to solve this right now? Like, what are you thinking so far? Let's just gather your thoughts and then let's implement the code. We'll pair programming on this. Like, what are your thoughts?
Like, on what I'm supposed to do?
Yeah, like how would you solve this question? You need to write a code that does. This is the prompt that they say. This is what your code needs to do. How would you write the code to do that?
I don't even know. Yeah. Input address equals 1.1.1.
Like don't even think about it in the programming sense. It's like if you were to solve this on paper, what would you do? How would you convert this address to this?
You just put. Well, what I'm thinking is like
Okay.
bracket or the dot one, the dots.
Yeah.
Put the brackets over it. And
So
like,
so look for dots and put brackets over there.
yeah.
Okay, how do we look for dots in a string in Python?
That I don't know. Are we gonna be replacing the address right there with 1.1.1 or?
Well, we can create a new like
Code.
you're familiar with variables, right?
Barely.
Variables would be like new address, right? That's a variable you can store. Like you're familiar with variables, or I guess you said you're not. So what's variables? A variable basically holds some data. So we just say new address and we say it equals to a string, and there's different data types, right?
Yeah.
Data types. There's like string, number. These are some basic ones, right? String and number. So we can create, and there's like other ones, but let's start with the basics. But we can create new variables with different data types, like a 0, which is a number, or we
Yeah.
can put like hello. So what that does, it stores hello into that variable, and later we can use that variable. Like pretend we want to print it, right?
Yeah.
So you remember what variables now are, right? It stores data.
Yeah. I remember now slightly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say we wanted to build a new variable with which we take like the old variable. So address is a variable that contains the string. What is string? It's like a word, right? It's like characters. You remember what string is?
No.
Okay, string is just like a word, or it's just characters, not non-numerical usually.
Okay.
It could be numerical too, but number is just like a number, like 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5. You could add them together and stuff.
Yeah.
But strings is usually like if you want to store Nobel or James or something. So we have this variable that's a string, and it contains 1.1.1.1, and we want to create a new variable with 1 and with all the dots bracketed,
Yeah.
right? And then we eventually want to return that variable, right?
Yeah.
So how do we look for dots in address?
Address.
Yeah. How do we do that? Like, what are some thoughts?
I'm thinking like you could put address equals one bracket dot bracket one. You get what I'm saying? Like you could Actually, no, because you said it's defined as the 1.1.1.
Yeah, like we're get like address here is already this full string,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if address was equal to dot, we could just replace it, right?
Yeah.
But instead, it's 1.1.1. So do you remember like loops?
No, I remember hearing about loops. Is loopback? Is that something?
So basically, a loop is a way that we can just iterate through the elements of something.
Yeah.
So this thing is a string, so we could do a loop to iterate through every single character here. And if we see a dot, we can convert that dot into a square bracket and dot.
Okay.
So something like this, like for element in address, right? So what would this do? If I'm looping through element in address and I print it, what should that print into my console?
But you said for element in address print element. It would.
Yeah. This what do this code do? For element in address, print the element. Like I said, it's
just
yeah.
yeah
Go ahead.
print. I'm guessing dot dot dot. Like it's like yeah, just prints the element.
The elements, right? So
Yeah.
it's actually gonna print one dot one.
Oh, okay,
Dot.
separately.
Yeah, because this is a string, right?
Yeah.
So this is the first element, second, third. So it's gonna basically what it's doing is it's just gonna go through each element and like print it out. That's what this piece of code is doing.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
So we said for element in the address, we'll do one thing. If the element is equal to a dot, what we'll do is we'll do new address. And then what we're gonna be building this string.
Yeah.
So if it's a dot, we're gonna replace it. Well, we're gonna append or add the dot with the brackets to the end of this thing. Do you remember branching, the conditional? So like if this thing, do this, else do something else.
I remember if else, yeah.
Yeah, so if it's a dot, do this. What should we do if it's not a dot? Like what should we do with new address? What are you thinking?
Like if it's not a dot,
Yeah.
I'm guessing like leave it like the same.
Okay, leave it the same, like just literally add element here. So let's run the code. So you could submit and it tests your code on a bunch of different things.
Okay.
So pretend we put like a x here. Like we'll say it's wrong because output is this, but expected that.
Yeah.
So it'll actually run your code on 62 different test cases to test it that it worked.
Yeah.
But yeah, how's that? Like that makes sense?
Yeah.
So you're remembering variables. So what did we learn right now? Variables,
Variables.
loops.
Yeah, loops. If else.
Okay. Now I'm gonna clear this out and now like you figure it out. How do you do this?
Oh no.
What did you learn?
So like I remember do new address.
Well, like let's talk about it at a high level. Like
Yeah.
what's the steps to the process? Okay, you said new address. What do we do? So you're saying we do new address?
Yeah.
Why do we have to do that?
To make the code know that it's gonna make something else, make a different one, different
Yeah.
different IP.
Well, like we want to eventually return the new string, the defanged IP address, right?
Yeah.
So we need to create a variable because we need to store that result and later return it,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So, okay, we create a variable so we can store our result, and then what do we do?
And then we make the code find the dots, the periods, and replace them with brackets. Like
Find
brackets.
dots and replace them with periods. Okay, how do we find the dots? Like what kind of function do we, or like what kind of like method we have to use?
Would it be if?
Or
Like-
find the dots, like remember we had like some syntax that was like actually searching or like going through the string. What was that called?
String.
or finding the dots part, the for loop. Remember the for loop to find the dots? You guys cooking right. Remember we did a for loop to find the dots? Because we need some way to, because we're given 1.1.1.
Yeah.
And we need to iterate over the elements. So it's like, how do we iterate through the elements? Remember?
No.
Okay, we basically, in order to iterate through all the elements, we have to use a for loop. So for element in address, print element.
Yeah.
So if address is equal to this, okay, I'll test you on this. If address is equal to this and we run this for loop on address, what does it print out?
It'll print out 1, then dot 1. Yeah. Just print out them all separately.
Okay. So what do we do here? If, like, what is the condition here that we need to do?
If period, like if the element equals period, then replace it with bracket dot period dot, no, bracket dot bracket.
Plus equals, like, put the bracket and then what else?
And then, see, I remember there was an else. Else, if it's anything else, you would put new address to return it back, right? New address to, so it doesn't change or anything.
Like, leave it alone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does this actually do here? New address plus equals this. Or let's actually walk through this code line by line to just make sure you're understanding how it's working. So you said just leave it alone?
Yeah.
So we just plus equals element. And then what do you do right here? There's not gonna be. Its output is null.
Yeah.
What should we do to make it work?
We could, what did we do last time?
Something down here.
Yeah. Was it print? No.
No, we just need to return it, right?
Okay.
Return the new address. Now the code works. Okay, let's walk through this line by line and actually figure out how the code is executing.
Yeah.
And yeah, that should be a good session for today, and let that cook.
How
are you feeling though? Like, it's making sense so far? Like how I'm explaining it?
Yeah. It's slowly coming back.
Yeah.
I need to start practicing again.
Okay, we need to create a variable called new address, and we're gonna store, like, what's a variable again? Do you remember?
Like X, right?
Or like, what is it in the programming sense? Like, why do we need to create variables?
As like a placeholder?
Yeah, like to store data.
Yeah.
So what we're doing, the new address, is we want to store the answer. So the answer so far is nothing, and then because we haven't built it up yet, eventually we want it to build up this, right?
Yeah.
So now we're looping through for element and address here. So what this is actually doing is it's essentially doing something like this. For element in, this is what the code is doing. So for element in, because it said for element and address, right? Yeah. That is referencing 1.1.1. So that eventually turns into something like this. So how I like to visualize this is we're doing a for loop through all the elements in the address. So I use a pointer. So in the first iteration, it's looking at 1.
Okay.
Right? So its element here is actually equal to 1. So we do equal to 1. That makes sense, right, for the first loop?
Why is element equal to 1? Because the pointer?
Yeah, basically it's because we're looping for every element in address. So we're basically looping through element.
Yeah.
So in the first iteration, it starts from the left and it moves to the right of this address. So the first element is 1.
Yeah.
So if element is equal to dot, is this true?
No.
Okay, it's not true. So it hits this else condition. So we add element to the back of new address. So we add 1 right here.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So now it reaches the end here, and since it's a loop, it literally just keeps like looping. That's why it's called a loop.
Mm-hmm.
So what would element be on, like, when it comes back around?
The dot.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it becomes a dot. Hell yeah. So it becomes a dot,
Yeah.
And we move this pointer up. Now what happens?
Then if the element's a dot, it'll give the new address.
Okay, so new address is equal to 1. So what it's doing, what plus equals means is like add this to the back. So it's adding this to the back. So we literally get that. You can see it's starting to form what we need.
Yeah.
Right. So now if it evaluates this, is it gonna evaluate this or no? This else?
No.
Yeah, it's only one or the other. It'll just run on the first condition. So now we get to the end of the for loop. Is it gonna go back?
It'll go to the next.
Yeah. It'll pretty much keep looping this until this pointer, till it's exhausted everything there, right?
Yeah.
So what is it now on this next iteration?
It's 1.
It's 1. Cool. So we get here, and then what happens here?
Then it'll go to else.
Else.
And then new address is 1.
Cool. And then you see it goes right there.
Yeah.
And then the next one is and I'll just walk through it. The next one is a dot. So we add this to the back. Then we move up. This is a 1. So we just add that. This is a dot. So to the back of new address. So this is why we have new address, because we're storing the result.
Yeah.
You can see while the loop is happening, the result is not finished yet. We're still creating it. And then afterwards, at the end, we get to 1. And you can see now new address equals this.
Yeah.
But then we weren't returning it, right? Now we just need to return it because that's what's in there. And then that's how you answer that question.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts?
What are my thoughts?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I need to practice more. And this is every like coding job. You need to learn and practice.
Yeah, you need to practice this. So let me go through. I'll just show you. Just watch me solve one question. I'll solve an easier one, or just solve another one. Let's look at this. Shuffle an array. And then just watch my thought process on how I do this. Just kind of shadow me. So, wait, where's my water? Is this like a brain teaser or what when you're watching?
No, this is like I'm like going back in time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Because you're remembering all this stuff and it's starting to make sense, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I did basic beginner. So they were basically only telling us like what stuff means, if else.
But not actually implementing it or not actually being practical with it.
Yeah.
Cool. So, okay, he's gonna shadow me on this one question. So this is the prompt. We need to write the code that we're given an array of numbers. An array is basically just a list. Do you remember that? Arrays?
Yeah.
So array is just a list of numbers. And it has 2n elements in the form of like x1, x2, right?
Okay.
So we're given a list of numbers like this. And the size of the array is 2 equals to n. And they actually give us n, which is equal to 3. So what's 2n? 2 times 3 is 6. So it's basically just telling us, there's like a little bit of math involved there.
Yeah.
So it's telling us to return the array in the form x1, y1, x2, y2. That means like they want you to interleave the elements. So this is x1, this is x2, right? This is x3. This is, and it's just explaining here. This is y1, this is y2, this is y3. The reason why they're saying it's exactly be 2n is so that you can like interleave them properly.
Yeah.
But what they want is return the array in the form of like x1, y1, x2, y2. So that's going to be like, so what is that going to look like, right? 2,
2, 3.
So yeah, 2, 3.
2, 5.
5.
4.
4.
And then
1 and 7, right? Like
yeah.
x1, y2. Or x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3. So it's like 1, 7. You can see, yeah, that's the result here.
Oh.
Right? So what I'm thinking is, it's similar to the last question where we're going to need to store some result we want to store the result in an array, because we want to store the result in a variable and eventually return that.
Okay.
And it's kind of similar to the last one where we kind of want to loop through the array.
Yeah.
But we're probably gonna want to have like 2 pointers here. One pointer, like I'll just call it like P1, and a pointer here. So this one's a little bit more advanced, where we have 1 pointer here and 1 pointer here.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do a for loop where these pointers are moving at the same time, and we're gonna put P1 into the result and then P2, and then we're gonna move up the pointers.
Okay.
Like that, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll just stop when P2 leaves.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do that is I'll create a P1 and I'll create a P2. I'll start P1 at the very start. So I'm gonna give it a 0th index. That means it's gonna start at the start of the array.
Yeah.
And then this one I'm gonna set this equal to like n. And since arrays are start from 0, I don't know if you remember that, but arrays start with 0, 1. These are like the index is like the how you grab it from the array. But we could explain arrays in a different video. But what I'm going to do is like P1 and P2, these are pointers.
Yeah.
So I'm initializing them. So they start at 0, 1, 2, 3. Actually, I just want to store it at n. So I'm initializing it here, right? So I'm going to do is like while P2 is less than the length of nums. So while P2 is less than the length of the array, because when it leaves the array, I'm done, right? I want this while loop to just keep running. Basically, this is the condition for how, like, while the loop will keep running.
Yeah.
So I'll say while P2 is less than the length of nums right here. What I'm going to do is we'll say result dot append. So this is how we add to the end of this list. But what I said is I want to add P1 first, then P2. So we'll say nums P1. Result nums P2. So that's gonna pretend this is the list. I initialize the pointers, and while we're saying while P2 is less than the length of the num, so while it's still within the list,
Yeah.
we're gonna add P1 and then P2. So what's at P1 and P2? Well, we have 2 and 3, right?
Yeah. The beginning.
And then what I'm gonna want to do is I want to increment P1 and P2. So how I do that is do P1 plus equals 1, or you could do P1 equals P1 plus 1.
Okay.
That means it starts at 0, right? So the next one is going to be 1. So how we do the next one? P2 equals P2. So that's how you increment them, how you move them forward.
Yeah.
Right? So now, after I increment this, it's going to go back up because it's a loop. It's going to check, is P2 less than the length of the num, which is 2n, which is actually 6. So is 4 less than 6? No. So that's why it goes again. And now it's going to put 5 and then 6. 5 and then, or 5 and then 4. Then we're going to increment this pointer and then this pointer.
Yeah.
Right? And it goes back. P2 is still within the bounds of this num. Like it's still less than the length of this thing.
Yeah.
So one more time, we finally print 1. Then we finally print 7. And then now P2 like leaves. So when it tries to evaluate this, P2 is I think 7 at this point. And is it less than 6? No, it's false. Or it's 6 at this point maybe. Or 0, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's 6 at this point. Is 6 less than 6? No.
No.
Like if it was this, yeah. But 6 is not less than 6, so no. So we just leave and result should have what we want here. So
Okay, let's
result, submit. Nice.
Nice.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we should like keep doing more of these sessions where we walk through some easy questions too, and maybe you'll start getting them. And then, like I said, you start small and you just stay consistent. And then one day I'm gonna ask you like this hardest question on LeetCode.
Soon I'll be able to answer.
You'll be making money.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks Noble for coming out. Yep. We'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.